Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
Welcome to our journey into the timeless wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. In this sacred conversation, Sri Krishna guides Arjuna through confusion, fear, duty, and the deeper meaning of life. Through Krishna's teachings, we will explore who we truly are, why we experience suffering, what happens beyond this temporary body, and how we can develop real peace and spiritual understanding. As we study each teaching, our goal is not simply to gain knowledge, but to understand it, apply it in our daily lives, and gradually transform our consciousness. Let's begin this beautiful journey with Krishna.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into what is literally one of the most intense and honestly relatable moments of psychological crisis in all of classical literature. We're looking at a pivotal scene from the Bhagavad Gita, specifically verse 1.31, and unpacking its deeper commentary. And look, this isn't just some dusty lesson about ancient warfare. It's a profound look into the human psyche when absolutely everything we value is suddenly put on the line. So, let's get right into it.
So, what exactly happens when our duty clashes completely with our heart? We're going to explore this universal human dilemma by zooming in on the exact moment a highly skilled warrior decides to just drop his weapons. I mean, imagine standing at the absolute pinnacle of your career, totally prepared to do exactly what society expects of you, and then hitting a wall, realizing the personal cost is just too high. This is the ultimate collision between what we're supposed to do, our duty, and what our emotions are screaming at us to do.
Section 1. The Ultimate Battlefield Dilemma.
Okay, let's set the scene. The warrior Arjuna is standing there, staring directly at his own relatives across the enemy lines, and his raw emotional despair is completely captured in this literal translation of the verse. He basically says, "I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness." He is totally shutting down the idea that the traditional spoils of war could ever outweigh the devastation of destroying his own family.
Section 2. Arjuna's refusal to fight. To really get the depth of his refusal, you have to look at the exact words he uses here. He explicitly links the concept of his family, Svajanan, with an absolute rejection of victory and the kingdom. The original Sanskrit draws a direct line. Because the targets on the battlefield are his own family, his Svajanan, the idea of Vijayam, victory, becomes something he simply does not want anymore. And Rajyam, the kingdom itself, it suddenly feels completely worthless to him. He's functionally saying, look, the prize requires destroying the exact people I'd want to share it with.
Section 3. The Blindness of Attachment.
Now the commentary here does something brilliant. It zooms way out to diagnose why Arjuna is experiencing this devastating paralysis. The text explains he's suffering from what it calls a blind conception of life. This is when conditioned souls mistakenly anchor all their hopes for happiness purely in physical relationships. Arjuna looks at his cousins and brothers and genuinely thinks, without them, happiness is literally impossible. And this narrow view actually makes him completely forget the true causes of happiness.
This brings up a massive contrast between where we usually look for happiness versus where the text says our true self-interest actually lies. Often, we perceive our self-interest as coming from those bodily relationships and material situations. But the commentary lays it out clearly. A conditioned soul acts this way simply because they don't know their actual self-interest, which, according to the text, is found in the divine, specifically in Vishnu or Krishna. Arjuna's whole crisis basically stems from confusing the former for the latter.
To explain this psychology, the source material uses this incredibly relatable everyday analogy to bridge the gap between ancient warfare and human nature. I love this comparison because it instantly makes a high-stakes philosophical dilemma so perfectly understandable. It states, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook, think about it. If you have absolutely no appetite, the whole hassle of gathering ingredients, prepping, and cooking a meal just seems entirely useless, right? Well, in Arjuna's mind, the meal is the kingdom and victory. Because he believes killing his relatives will destroy any chance he has at happiness, his hunger for victory is completely gone. Therefore, he has absolutely zero inclination to perform the action of fighting. The drive just isn't there.
Section 4. The warrior's forgotten duty. Because of this intense emotional paralysis, Arjuna completely forgets his moral codes. You see, Arjuna is a kshatriya, a warrior. That means his entire livelihood and societal framework depend on having a kingdom to govern. He literally isn't allowed to just change careers. The commentary really emphasizes this. Kshatriyas cannot just go find another job. To gain the kingdom he inherited from his father, his one and only opportunity is to fight his cousins and brothers. That is his prescribed duty, but right now his emotional attachment is totally overriding it.
The text reminds us of the true spiritual stakes here by highlighting two very specific, honorable paths. It points out the noble duty Arjuna is on the verge of just throwing away. According to the commentary, there are two kinds of men eligible to enter the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. The first is someone in the renounced order of life, totally devoted to spiritual culture. The second, and this applies directly to Arjuna, is the kshatriya who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders. By refusing to fight, Arjuna is tossing out this immense spiritual elevation, all because he's so overwhelmed by his material attachments. Section 5. The illusion of escape.
Feeling completely trapped between his duty and his heart, Arjuna desperately tries to invent a third option, simply running away. When faced with an impossible choice, it's human nature to look for an exit door that doesn't actually exist. Let's trace his logic here. Step 1. He absolutely hates the idea of fighting his family, so he refuses to reclaim his inheritance. Step 2. While as a consequence of Step 1, he has no kingdom which, as we just learned, is strictly required for a warrior's substance. Step 3. Since he has no livelihood, he concludes he's now perfectly fit to just go into the forest and live a secluded life. In his mind, boom, he's solved the dilemma.
But the commentary sharply points out the massive flaw in this plan. Because he is a warrior without a kingdom, this escape isn't going to bring him peace. Actually, scratch that. It's going to bring him a secluded life of deep frustration. This brilliantly illustrates the trap of trying to abandon your duty just because you're in emotional distress. His inherent nature is that of a kshatriya. Sitting in the forest doing nothing goes completely against his grain. He isn't some renounced ascetic. He's an overwhelmed warrior. Escaping to the forest won't magically grant him spiritual peace. It's literally just going to leave him stripped of his purpose, sitting completely alone and totally frustrated.
So the ultimate question this explainer leaves us with is this. When our own responsibilities become painful, do we stand our ground or do we run toward an illusion of escape? Arjuna's crisis here forces us to look at our own blind conceptions of life. When the things we're attached to violently clash with the things we're responsible for, trying to run away almost always leads to that secluded life of frustration. It is a powerful, powerful reminder to examine where we place our true self-interest, way before we decide to walk away from the battlefield of our own lives. Definitely something profound to think about. Until next time.